Okay, let's dive into this. Hello everyone and welcome to this explainer. So today we're exploring a region that's absolutely famous for its breathtaking beauty. But we're going to look at a side of it that you literally never see in the travel brochures. We're unpacking a series of deeply unsettling first-hand accounts detailed in recent local source material. We are talking about the terrifying local folklore of Uttarakhand, a place where ancient mountains hold some very, very ancient secrets.
Give him food, or you all will die. Just imagine that for a second. You're driving down a pitch-black, winding mountain road. You are miles away from any sort of civilization, and out of the absolute dark, an unseen entity delivers that exact, chilling ultimatum. Now, this isn't some script from a horror movie. This is a direct claim from the source material we're examining today. It's exactly the kind of story that makes you want to double-check your locks and maybe rethink that late-night drive, right?
Section 1. Shadows of Uttarakhand, the Unseen World. And this brilliantly illustrates the region's dual identity, which is absolutely crucial to understand these accounts. You see, it's a place of immense spiritual significance, but according to locals, it's also a place where the veil between our world and the supernatural is just incredibly thin. On one hand, you've got the modern road, right? Tourists seeking scenic views, snapping photos of waterfalls. But on the other hand, just beneath that surface, locals describe an unseen world. We're talking about ancient territorial entities lurking in the dark, literally just waiting for a traveler to make a single mistake.
Section 2. The Midnight Hitchhiker. A terrifying journey. Let's look at our first case study. This involves four brothers who, despite plenty of local warnings, decided to drive up into the mountains to their remote village in the dead of night. If you follow the timeline, it escalates so fast. They left at midnight. By 1 a.m. in this totally isolated area, they picked up a frantic hitchhiker. Just 15 minutes later, by 1:15 a.m., after forcing her out of the vehicle, their engine completely dies. Dead quiet. Stranded, they headed into the woods to find help around 1:30 a.m. and honestly stepped right into a nightmare.
The source material details these incredibly visceral warning signs that the brothers either missed or just tried to ignore. For instance, when the youngest brother dropped his phone in the car, the light revealed the hitchhiker's bare feet were bleeding profusely from deep cuts, yet she wasn't reacting to any pain whatsoever. Bizarre, right? She just frantically, repeatedly demanded they feed her child. Then comes the unexplained engine failure. They wander into the woods to find another village, suddenly smell rotting meat, and stumble upon this terrifying illusion: a boy sitting alone in the pitch dark, eating raw deer meat with a massive knife.
When the brothers realized what they were looking at and tried to quietly back away, the boy noticed them. He walked right up, claiming he was starving, and grabbed the youngest brother, the exact same brother who had noticed the bleeding feet earlier. And, as the source states, he slashed his finger off with a large knife. The brothers somehow managed to fight the entity off, bolted back to the car, and miraculously the engine just started right up. Now, according to their grandmother, who explained the lore to them later, the entity forcibly took that severed finger as the food the mother had been so violently demanding.
Section 3. Rules of the Paranormal. Survival Mechanics.
So, what does this all mean? Well, these terrifying encounters actually aren't random. Local culture outlines strict mechanics for how this all works, which brings us to a really important regional term, gadera. Basically, a gadera is a flowing mountain stream or a water source. But according to the folklore in our source, these aren't just pretty nature spots. They are supernatural hotspots. They're the exact locations where paranormal entities are believed to gather and draw energy to physically manifest themselves. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the reasoning behind why they gather there. It's not actually just about the water itself. The local theories suggest these entities are incredibly attracted to scent. Flowing mountain water has this very distinct, raw, earthy smell. Add to that, predators, like leopards and tigers, frequently drink from these streams, and they bring the strong metallic scent of fresh animal blood with them. So this potent combination of raw nature, animal blood, and decaying matter is said to act like an absolute magnet for dark, wandering energies.
And because these entities are considered so prevalent around these spots, the folklore dictates some very strict rules for survival. Step 1. Never challenge them. If you stand out there in the dark and yell that you aren't afraid of ghosts, the locals say you are literally begging for an attack. Step 2. Never invite them. Don't ask them to show themselves. Essentially, if you're out hiking or driving, keep those ghost hunting apps turned firmly off, because breaking these basic rules turns you from a random passerby into prey.
Section 4. The Ancestral Shield. Historical Protection.
Historically, though, locals weren't entirely defenseless against these threats. Take this quote, for example. "Rub your nose on this rock and promise to never touch my family again." This comes from a legendary, almost cinematic showdown between a local great-grandfather named Junkie Belodi and a totally relentless ghost. The entity had been terrorizing their village and was specifically calling out Junkie's name every single night, directly challenging his spiritual authority.
But Junkie wasn't just an ordinary guy. The lore states he possessed an ancient book filled with unreadable, magical words. A book so immensely powerful, it was supposedly guarded by a giant snake. When the ghost finally challenged him, Junkie calmly lured the entity down to a specific river rock. There, puffing on a small brass hookah, he started chanting powerful mantras. In this stunning display of supernatural warfare, he actually bound the ghost to the rock, forcing it to rub its nose against the stone and swear to never, ever harm the Belodi bloodline again. So the crucial point is, for generations, that family felt completely safe. But here is the chilling modern update to that legend. Just a few years ago, a massive flood swept through that valley, and that exact protective rock, it was entirely washed away. Is the entity free now? Honestly, it remains a terrifying, completely unanswered question for the locals.
Section 5. The Cremation Ground Encounter. Which actually leads us right to our final and definitely most harrowing recent case study. A family was trying to find a local Ramlila festival in the dark, took a wrong turn, and accidentally ended up at a Shamshan Ghat. Just for some context here, a Shamshan Ghat is a traditional cremation ground. They are incredibly isolated, usually deep in the forest, heavily associated with death and ash, and locals consider them strictly off-limits at night because of wandering spirits. You do not want to be there after dark.
Well, the situation spiraled out of control instantly. One of the uncles wandered directly off the path into the Shamshan Ghat and was found sitting right in the scorching hot ash of a recently burned funeral pyre, just rubbing the hot ash all over himself. When his nephews rushed in to pull him away, he shoved them back with this immense, totally unnatural strength. It escalated so fast that they had to call their grandfather and a local priest. The uncle literally had to be forcefully dragged out of there by his hair, while the priest frantically performed cleansing rituals right there in the dirt. It was absolute chaos.
Now, the uncle did survive, but he didn't leave that cremation ground unmarked. During the intense struggle, an unseen force grabbed his arm. The source details that a searing burn mark, in the exact, undeniable shape of a human hand, was left permanently branded onto his skin.
Section 6. Folklore or Reality.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because we've covered a lot of truly terrifying ground today. And it's super easy to just dismiss these as spooky campfire stories. But the source material is very clear about the physical evidence left behind in the waking world. Remember the youngest brother from our first story? Well, he still lives with only half a pinky finger today. It is a permanent, undeniable physical scar that validates, at least to him and his family, the absolute reality of that midnight encounter.
Which leads us with the ultimate question as we wrap up this explainer. When the physical evidence starts aligning with the supernatural claims, where does the myth end and the terrifying truth actually begin? If you ever find yourself on a dark, winding road in Uttarakhand, well, you might just find out for yourself. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep your curiosity sharp.